On Monday, we attempted to cascade into rhinos. Today, we're going to go a whole lot harder. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Aaron sent us a pretty neat idea, and we'll see how strong it ends up being. It is a deck built around As Foretold. This is a neat card that is borderline strong enough for Legacy. So, at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a time counter on it. Once each turn, you can pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. So the general idea with this is to play an As Foretold and then cast your 0 cost cards that normally can't be cast for free. And if you just get to chain together Ancestral Visions into copies of Crashing Footfalls, well, you're probably going to have a good time. Now, As Foretold deck lists in Legacy don't tend to look like this. As Foretold decks in Legacy are often like Chrome Mox or Spirit Guide plus Ancient Tomb decks that look to power this out as quickly as possible. But Aaron wants to play a slightly different game. The idea here is to use Ponder and Brainstorm to set up cards like Amped Raptor or Shardless Agent. So most of the time, the Shardless Agent Cascade decks are built with just like 8 Spirit Guides as acceleration. You always go and hit Crashing Footfalls or Ancestral Visions, and that's not what's happening here. Instead, the idea is turn 1, Brainstorm or Ponder, turn 2, Amped Raptor, and hit your thing. That's the idea that is going on with this deck. Now, is this always going to work? No. Is this occasionally going to be clunky? Yes. So for example, with Shardless Agent, if your third land drop is going to be a fetch land, your Brainstorms and Ponders aren't actually really going to set that up to do what you want it to do, because you're going to need to fetch to get your mana. So this won't always work to get the absolute best thing, but, you know, if you're still getting a Brainstorm or Ponder worth of value out of these cards, that's not the end of the world. I didn't really mess with the main deck that Aaron submitted once. There was a Mystic Sanctuary here, with the idea being that you put your cards on top before cascading into them. I think in the early turns, sometimes it's going to be more important to just have a Surveil, so I added a second Surveil land instead. And the main deck didn't have any copies of Brazen Borrower. We're not in white where you just have something like Leyline Binding or Prismatic Ending to catch the non-creature stuff that's going through. So I thought just having some generic game 1 bounce stuff, since we don't have a Teferi or something, was important. Notice here that we are maxing out on Galvanic Discharge and just playing a couple of Lightning Bolts, because banking the extra energy for Amped Raptor can be relevant. The sideboard I changed a lot. Biggest thing that I did was add in copies of Consigned to Memory. My podcast co-host Brian has just always said, like, my blue sideboards start with 3 copies of these and go elsewhere. Now, are they a little awkward here because sometimes you will cascade into them or hit them with Amped Raptor? Yes. But ultimately, I think there's enough Eldrazi and Mystic Forge combo in the metagame right now that I will be happy having this card, even if it is occasionally clunky or awkward. We are going to keep the inevitable betrayals in the sideboard. This is neat and occasionally might do something relatively gross against a creature deck. I'm not really sure that this is the best use of a sideboard card, but it is very fun, so we'll go with it. Otherwise, the sideboard has some reasonable options for things like artifacts and the graveyard and a handful of counter magic. In particular, we probably want a bunch of copies of Pyroblast, because the Lightning Bolts and Galvanic Discharges aren't necessarily going to go and kill the Psychic Frogs of the world. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into a league here. I apologize in advance if I slur a little bit in today's video. My lip is super swollen still. And folks, should you need some Magic cards, consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. I bought a bunch of stuff from them in Vegas and was very, very happy with them. They even tracked down one specific card that they didn't have in stock for me, and I very much appreciated that. Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order, and you always get free shipping, so what's not to like about that? Alright, let's go see if we can draw some cards and make some rhinos. For free! Being tested. Dislike sometimes works, right? As long as there's a land in my top 3 cards, this is gas. Preferably it's not a fetch land. I could also play more conservatively and just begin the game with Suspend Ancestral Visions rather than trying to Amped Raptor immediately into Ancestral, which is probably just, like, much safer. We're definitely afraid of Wasteland here. Natural land drop would be hot. Force of Will's not bad. Let's see if we accidentally Brainstorm lock ourselves here. We do not. Okay. So now this is just purely what am I keeping in hand. So the Galvanic Discharges are probably the weakest thing in a vacuum versus this. I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw those back with the intention of playing a fetch and surveilling. And we have Force of Will for if my opponent throws something like an Entomb out there, because we're probably playing against either a blue-black Reanimator deck or a blue-black Tempo deck of some kind. Alright, no immediate Psychic Frog. So that's good for us. Let's go Hedge Maze in respect of green-green for Uro a little bit later on. I do not want Lightning Bolt right now. Like, it's kind of interesting if my opponent has Orcish Bowmasters, but that's about it. So, I'm holding As Foretold for Force of Will, I think, so I think I'm just going to roll the dice on Shardless Agent and hope that it works. I could also roll the dice on Amped Raptor, and then I play around Daze on the thing that I go into. I think I like that, actually. Well, let's do that. Trigger. Alright, we'll Brainstorm. I am punished for playing my land prior to this, because now I can't fetch the bad stuff away. I could set up Shardless Agent into Sylvan Library next turn. It's unclear that Sylvan Library is even good right now, though. Like, I am about to just draw a whole bunch of other cards. Yeah, I think I'm just going to put back land, and then shuffle one of these away. And maybe we cast Sylvan Library at some point. Maybe we don't. But I think I'd rather have a chance at hitting something like Rhinos here. Third land drop from the opponent. Still no moves yet. This is weird. My opponent might be much closer to like a blue-black control deck list than anything else. So let's send this. I would love to fetch and get a Surveil land. I think I need to respect Daze still. It's possible my opponent is something like Grixis Control, and Daze is potentially less of an issue. I think we'll play around it here. Maybe Taiga? I could Thundering Falls and Sylvan Library, but if my opponent, is a combo deck after all of this, then that is a very slow line. Let's roll on Shardless Agent here. The bar was Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library probably would have been better than the random Brainstorm. We'll put Sylvan Library 2 down here, and maybe I Cascade into it. It does not feel like we are playing a Legacy power level game right now. Like, my opponent is at 15, and they have taken no real game actions. That's not super acceptable for this late in the game. Wow, still no game actions. So is everything just hinging on this turn? Alright, target me. Okay, that just works. Well, let's hit for our 4. We'll bring our opponent to 11. I guess let's Shardless Agent. I would like to just add more immediate power to the board. That'll work. I think it's actually better to just As Foretold into Crashing Footfalls there. What the fuck are you doing over there, bud? Damon, you played no spells all game. Literally none. I think you surveilled Force of Will into graveyard, right? Like, you kept a 6-card hand. The fuck is going on? That was no cantrip, no cycle, nothing. Was board for Reanimator? Like, take the things that are going to be generically good versus a graveyard deck and generically good versus a blue deck. We could Inevitable Betrayal. Get our own Archon of Cruelty or Atraxa. That's kind of hot. That's, like, fun. I may be into that. Lightning Bolts aren't killing Psychic Frogs. Galvanic Discharges maybe aren't. Barrogoyf is a sideboard card that these maybe kill Orcish Bowmasters. It would be nice to remove those. If I junk all of those, I could then do something like trim 2 Ancestrals for the fact that I am playing Inevitable Betrayals, hedging against Reanimator. And I think I'm going to do this to just slightly up my blue count if I'm going to cut a couple of Ancestrals. And we'll see how that feels. I think I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to say yes to this. I don't have business, but I have the things that should, in theory, keep me from losing the game quickly. So we'll call that fine. Just no game actions. I am just going to try to resolve this immediately. I'm not going to give my opponent the opportunity to end of turn Entomb into a reanimation card. Blue, green, red. I can play this game on basics as well, potentially. So there's our called shot. Force of Will pitching Daze. Okay. Force of Will pitching Brainstorm. So we'll take out the Force of Will. And now we have our insurance policy in play, so we can't just get got quickly. Ha ha ha. Nice. Super rewarded. Daze not online yet. I want this one to get basic forest. I'll just pass the turn here. No game actions taken. Wow, my opponent kept a hand with no access to blue mana. I'm going to fetch my forest here to just make sure that I don't draw it and put myself into an awkward spot regarding my cards. I think I am comfortable casting Shardless Agent here. Fuck, there's no basic mountain? Daggers. Alright, well, that makes my Pyroblast a lot worse. Good to know. Ponder is not the most exciting thing here. Okay, so there's basically 0 reasons to make this game decision. So I'm not doing anything else with this volcanic island here. It's not like I'm going to return this to my hand with a Daze or anything like that, given my deck construction. So my opponent has just taken themselves off of like drawing a land and playing a Barrogoyf or something like that on their next turn by taking this action. There's 0 reason to do this right now. So this is actually quite awkward. I think I'm going to draw the Ancestral so that I have it for Force of Will, so I can stop something like a Psychic Frog from coming down. But if I do that, then my next turn is just Thundering Falls, pass, because I don't have untapped red. Not having a basic mountain in this deck is a little rough. I think, accordingly, I'm just going to shuffle this. I think this is too awkward. We end up with a Taiga, which is not great. But it does turn on Pyroblast next turn, so, like, I guess we'll take it. Alright. I am just gonna hold this for right now. We'll just send in for 2 with interaction available. There is some troll cycling. So the next land gets to happen now, and a reanimate on the troll. My opponent is presumably going to try to go through this. I think I am going to cast a Brainstorm here and see how my next turn cycle or 2 looks. I can put back Amped Raptor, play Amped Raptor, and hit Brainstorm. I also can just attempt to bounce Troll back to hand. I kind of like Force of Willing the Troll and not letting Soul Guide Lantern leave play. That might be greedy, though. I'll just nuke your graveyard. So we'll poke for our 2 here. Drop our opponent to 15. And then we will get our Brainstorm with extra steps cast. Sure. I don't want this next land. Let's put back, like, Amped Raptor, Tropical Island, play Thundering Falls, junk Tropical Island. Pass. We have 1 piece of interaction up for the next turn, but then we'll have 2 pieces of interaction up after that. A Psychic Frog. I believe that I let that resolve and just Pyroblast it rather than trying to fight it on the stack. This lets my opponent discard things, but I still have Force of Will afterwards. So I think I'm fine with it. We will start with Amped Raptor in case I Amped Raptor into something like a Pyroblast that can kill Psychic Frog. As foretold, yeah, absolutely, I will cast that. I have 3 energy right now. That is a Force of Will pitching a Brainstorm. Resolves. Pyroblast your Psychic Frog that you're no longer protecting. Okay, there is an Atraxa, so that is a little scary. We are very quickly going to put our opponent out of range of Reanimate specifically. Ponder is fine. It's very, very tough for my opponent to, like, on 2 or 3 cards, have way to reanimate plus way to stop my Force of Will. It's possible, but it's tough. Nice. So this attack takes my opponent off of reanimate. It now has to be, like, animate dead. That's fine. This is not going to significantly change my clock here, because I still have an attack for 4 followed by an attack for 6. Now my opponent, yeah, they're in bad shape, basically. I guess this should be off this and this. We'll Amped Raptor again. Nice. Just a little refuel here. Cool. I specifically meant to leave up green when I pointed to 2 lands, and I just didn't do that. Yeah, so it was supposed to be Taiga Island so that I can cast a green 2-drop if I draw one. But now I don't get to suspend Crashing Footfalls, although maybe I don't even want to do that. All right. So I know I say it a lot, but like the London Mulligan is the most powerful thing that exists in the game of Magic the Gathering, and my opponent did not really meaningfully play either one of those games of Magic. They did Mulligan once, both times they kept 6-card hands, but they took literal no game actions other than, I think, fetching and surveilling in game 1, and in game 2, they were just all in on a hand that could produce a turn 2 fatty, but if it was stopped, it couldn't even cantrip if it drew them, and things like days weren't online. I think my opponent would have played more Magic if they mulliganed those 6-card hands.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything, and there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online.
All right, my opponent has revealed a Yorion Companion, so potentially a Death and Taxes style deck. I think my hand just does not go fast enough here, especially on the play. This is good. So suspend Crashing Footfalls, turn 2, just naked play Amped Raptor probably. So assuming that I need to interact with my opponent's creatures, Brainstorm is probably the worst card here, and I don't know that I have time to just wait till turn 3 to set up Amped Raptor the way that I otherwise might like to do. So let's get some rhinos going. We've got an early answer for something like a Stoneforge Mystic. Oh, fuck me! I mean, this is what Brazen Borrower is for. This is the sort of reason why I added it to the deck. But fuck. All right. Let's hope we hit a Brainstorm or something rather than a 0-cost spell, huh? We'll take a Lightning Bolt. Oh, right. That is how that's going to work. I'm still doing it. I think I just have to get a clock in play. Like, I need to pressure the one ring in particular. So I have a Boseiju, 2 Brazen Borrowers, I guess Force of Negation, Meltdown, Pick Your Poison as things that interact with Vexing Bauble meaningfully. This one can't go to face. Not great. Yeah, I think Vexing Bauble is just a reason to not want to play any archetype that looks like this in Legacy. Yeah. Damn it. That is exactly what my opponent needed to do, and I wanted them not to do that. I am going to concede. I don't think I reasonably win the game from here. I have 3 blanks in hand. Petty Theft isn't turning this off anymore. I'm not just going to hardcast this and beat down. And I have played my 1 Boseiju. Alright, so I have a lot of bad cards. These Galvanic Discharges and Lightning Bolts are not going to do too much work. Lightning Bolts are going for sure. I'm probably going to turn a couple copies of Ancestral Vision into Inevitable Betrayal to search some fun things out of my opponent's deck. A lot of this game is going to revolve around me just not instantly losing to Vexing Bauble. There are potentially some smaller creatures that I have to worry about. You know, the Glaring Fleshbreaker. Oh my gosh, one mana green Land Tutor Elf. Elvish Reclaimer, there we go. You know, some of that sort of stuff can be in here. I'm probably going to go down on these rather than cut them completely. And then maybe just chunk a little bit of this sort of stuff. Yeah, the 1 mana colorless invalidate my deck design is pretty rough. This answers a turn 1 Vexing Bauble. Doesn't answer a Vexing Bauble later. Um, ugh. Yeah, so my opponent is aggressively mulliganing, which I think is just a sign that they recognize how batshit insane Vexing Bauble is going to be in this matchup. So hopefully this pick your poison bails my ass out. Some weird things can happen, like if my opponent randomly plays an artifact land into it or something like that, then it dodges pick your poison. Grabbing basic forest and passing. So I don't get to do the ideal pick your poison line. So we're just fetch land and pass. Pick your poison. Okay, yeah. So there's the smaller creatures that I mentioned. So we kept some removal in for those. We will Thundering Falls, a Ponder. Ponder's okay. So if I keep Ponder, I am keeping this hoping to tap out for As Foretold on my turn and then Ponder into something broken the following turn. I think I let my opponent on top with this. I think I'm going to say that Ponder is good enough. We'll take down our Rhinos and then play an As Foretold. Now we could have shuffled Ponder in an attempt to high roll into one of the like 8 0 drops that I have. Like an 8 in 50 or 8 in 51 shot is not, you know, the worst. But it's still kind of hoping that you win a die roll. Alright, opponent's just passing. So we can have a number of scary things happen. Pick your poison can technically kill a Merit Lage, but it is a sorcery. Ooh. I think I cast this paying mana in hopes of playing a 0 drop for free. Those are not really what I'm looking for. I can Shardless Agent and roll the dice again. I think it's better to just shuffle and try to hit a random cantrip. The 2/2 body doesn't matter that much. I can just Shardless Agent past those cards, but then I'm not guaranteed to be able to Force of Negation afterwards. Maybe that doesn't matter. All right, roll the dice on Shardless Agent. Here we go. So we'll cascade past the 2 cards that we already know about. All right, we are playing Waterfalls here. So now we do another thing randomly. I think I hit Brazen Borrower there, and hence I don't have the 3 energy to do that. So I do not have Force of Negation available. My Pick Your Poison isn't doing anything currently. My Force of Negation isn't doing anything currently. This did not line up well for me. My opponent potentially getting a Tron land here to pair with Planar Nexus. Yep, there's the tower. So my opponent has 3, 4, 5 mana available. We are starting to get into like the One Ring territory. Raucous. Hey, it's the One Ring, and I don't have Force of Negation available. My opponent gets a turn, and this would be a really bad time for a Vexing Bauble to come down. Yeah. Yep. Because that's right before this happens. And Pick Your Poison is a sorcery. Force of Negation also significantly worse now. As Foretold, significantly worse. Yeah. We'll cast that. It gets countered. The timing there is just fucking cruel. So we can Boseiju Vexing Bauble to get rid of it. My opponent can draw their card. Ooh, they value the land more. Then I can cast Pick Your Poison for free, having my opponent sacrifice an artifact. That gets rid of the One Ring. I should probably technically have played the land first so that I have Force of Negation available backing my stuff up. So my opponent can now start doing Elvish Reclaimer things. It's going to be a 3/4 shortly. My opponent can start building up more mana. This is where I'd like to find some sort of like Inevitable Betrayal type card, rip an Eldrazi out of my opponent's deck or something like that, and really take over the game. I will more or less Force of Negation any spell that I can legally Force of Negation. Just anything to slow my opponent down here. Just another Elvish Reclaimer. I still think I'll bite on it, even though it's not the most exciting thing in the world. I don't really want my opponent to have a pair of 3/4 creatures that invalidates my stuff on the ground. One of them is bad enough. All right, well, never mind what I want. What the fuck is this? Destroy target artifact or enchantment, draw a card, put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Okay, cool. Never didn't have it. My opponent has 1 lands, 2 lands, so this is effectively a 3/4 already. These attacks aren't great, and I'm in a pretty bad position. I am in a top deck war versus someone who can tutor every turn. Like the forests or whatever can just turn into cloud posts at will, or potentially other scarier things. Caracas is going. All right. So we got 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 mana. Lands you control and land cards in your library are basic. I have no idea what this set symbol is. I will grab a Surveil land here. Well, that would have been good if my As Foretold was still in play. Now it's not super powerful. And that's Yorion to hand. So that's not great versus Yorion coming up. I think I have effectively lost this game. I think my opponent is just going to beat me to death with creatures. Like, it is turn 7. I failed to do anything broken. They lined up Vexing Bauble to stop my one broken thing that I was capable of doing. Like, Eye of Ugin is coming at this point. I think if I win this one, it is because I cascade into Inevitable Betrayal. So there is a search for a Sowing Mycospawn. This is where the Consigned to Memory is going to look good. We're going to replicate the shit out of this. Replicate this twice. One of these here, one of these here. So that buys us a little bit of time. Deck. Not what we need. It's like this same thing can just keep happening. Like, it takes so little for my opponent to Eye of Ugin. Oh, when I counter Cloud Post a second ago, I forgot to count Planar Nexus. Now, one of my lands gets exiled. My opponent will get, like, another Cloud Post or whatever here. Another tower, just so it enters untapped. My opponent could probably be doing some chip damage here, but I think they're just rationalizing that it doesn't matter and they have inevitability. Ooh, no Surveil lands left. I was not supposed to fetch then. Oops. So if I suspend this, I think it's just far too slow. I'm going to hold it in hand in hopes of drawing an As Foretold. And my chances of doing that aren't the best because I have already used 2 of them. It is a crop rotation. Another Cloud Post. My opponent can then turn Urza's Tower into Cloud Post, as at this point the Cloud Posts are going to be making 6 mana each. I imagine I just get Emrakuled or equivalent. Yeah, so there's casual 18 mana, 20 mana. Emrakul? Yeah. What a brutal matchup. That one's tough. Okay, so this mulligan decision is actually really tough. Like, to what extent am I willing to keep a slow hand that can set up? If I treat this as like an A plus B combo deck, I am missing both A plus B. I am missing a Raptor, a Shardless Agent, or an As Foretold, and one of the 8 free cards to go with them. And there's like kind of a lot of stuff that I don't really want to hit. Like, I absolutely don't want to hit the remaining this many-ish lands. The rest of the stuff is fine. So my ponders are going to be looking at, you know, roughly half of the cards being good, but I need combinations of them. I think this is a mulligan. I'm going to keep it to just see how it plays out. And I think I'm going to start with Hedge Maze rather than Ponder, so that I gain just a little bit more information about what I am looking for before I ponder. I don't have a natural red land here, so it's not like I can hit... Well, if I fetched red, I could ponder, find Amped Raptor, and the 0-cost thing in the same draw. That, I guess, is one of my highest upside plays. Let's shoot for that. So we'll get Valk here, and then ponder. Yeah, okay, so I think we'll just intend on going past Thundering Falls. I'll draw Force of Will right now. And then we hope to get a little lucky with Amped Raptor. Got an emergency break for if something like an Entomb or a Vexing Bauble goes onto the stack. It is another Polluted Delta matchup. And Underground Sea. Your Ponder is fine. And Ponder shuffles. Now, I could wait a turn and attempt to ponder this turn and set up Amped Raptor. If I do so, I lose access to Force of Will, though, and I think Force of Willing a Psychic Frog or an Entomb matters too much, so I don't think we can operate under the normal plan here of trying to set up these cards. I also do not believe that I can counter if my opponent dazes this. Force of Will pitching Brainstorm. Now that my opponent has blown their counter and they probably don't have daze, do I counter back? I think since it was Force of Will specifically, I am willing to fight back here. Now, if I do this and I just hit, a Ponder or something, this looks pretty bad. All right, so we hit Brazen Borrower, so that is a no. That is very unfortunate. That was not worth a Force of Will. And this is some of the downside of trying to build one of these Cascade-style deck lists with things that are going to be misses. Note that I really do think that like the Brazen Borrowers need to be in the deck. I think we just need that flexibility. Getting an Underground Sea. Okay, no immediate reanimate. That's nice. That's not great, though. So let's try to get some selection. Suspending that is incredibly slow right now. I'm going to say no to that. And bash in for 2. We have a Boseiju up for if an Animate Dead specifically happens, but there's less and less Animate Dead being played now that more Metamorphosis Fanatic is in the format. That's not good. It is Atraxa. Alright, there is an Animate Dead. So, we are going to go ahead and Boseiju the Animate Dead here. And removing the Animate Dead before the trigger here resolves is going to keep our Atraxa from coming into play. Animate Dead's wording is a little strange, but we have effectively countered that, which is great. We absolutely needed that. If that was just a reanimate instead, I don't have any response to that. Now we're hoping for something hot off the top, like an Uro, a Shardless Agent, an Amped Raptor. I'll take a Sylvan Library. Okay, yeah, Amped Raptor. I guess I can go in for 2 first. Send it. Now, how I use this fetch land here is a little interesting. So if I hit a Ponder or a Brainstorm, I would love to take the best card and then fetch. But I think I'm going to Surveil with this trigger on this Hedge Maze. Where's Thundering Falls? I see. Well, alright. I will now hit Ponder or Brainstorm to punish me. Nope. Hit a draw 3. Hitting for 4. Puts my opponent to 10 versus putting them to 8. My opponent did not have days a little while ago. Let's press our luck here. I don't want to give my opponent more draws than I have to. So we have energy to just cast that. Alright, that's a lot of power. So if I get another combat step, reanimate is off the table. Okay, we dodged this turn. That is incredible. Galvanic Discharge, not actually all that bad here. It's hitting for 6, which is, enough for like a block off a creature to get rid of Atraxa. I can't help but feel like we got a little lucky winning that one. Like, all it takes is that Animate Dead to be Reanimate or Metamorphosis Fanatic, and I'm all of a sudden in trouble. So I like it. I think I like it. 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 Force of Negation probably being the sketchiest of the cards there. Pick Your Poison technically has some text versus some of the creatures with flying and Animate Dead. I don't think I want to go that route. I'm probably going Lightning Bolts out. Most or all of the Galvanic Discharges out. Maybe roughly 2 Ancestral Visions out. And then just like junk a library for being a little slow. Force of Negation's not perfect here. It misses some things like End of My Turn, Entomb, misses Metamorphosis Fanatic. But if I think my plan is don't die and then, do something disgusting, I need to play all the things that keep me from dying to my opponent's fast openers. Okay, I think I'm in for this hand. This hand has good interaction for something like a Psychic Frog. It has a Force of Will for something like an Entomb that's going to happen. I am down with this. We're probably playing this game a little slowly. I'm not even sure if I play Amped Raptor on turn 2. It's really going to depend on how the first turn cycle or so goes. This may be, hmm. Yeah, I think I want to have Pyroblast up right now rather than suspend something like this. Okay, no end of turn Entomb, no end of turn Troll Cycle. I will let you brainstorm. Alright, opponent not immediately fetching to clear. I'm going to go for a red Surveil land here. Let's say no to that. It's fine. Alright. As Foretold changes the value of my Ancestral quite a bit. I think I am just holding up mana here, and I want to play the thing that can be another red source in case like Wasteland happens in a main phase 1 or something. Ooh, no fetch. Hey, exactly what I was just talking about. So we'll probably float a blue here, and I think it's worth casting a Brainstorm. So I really need all the lands. It's unfortunate that I don't have another red mana source here. I can't just Amped Raptor into one of these things immediately. I think I'm always putting this back. I think I'll put the Crashing Footfalls back in the deck. Maybe I'll put Amped Raptor back in the deck. I'm going to put Amped Raptor on top, and I can decide whether or not I want to draw that in a second. I think I'm just working towards As Foretold rather than Amped Raptor. And we keep the Crashing Footfalls so that when I resolve As Foretold, I can do something cool. Do I want to draw Amped Raptor and then not have Pyroblast available to back up my Force of Will? I'm not sure that I do. Yeah, I don't think that I want to draw that. I think I'm just going to get a red land here. I've already used my red Surveil land. Now, I could suspend Crashing Footfalls here. I don't think that's the plan. I think I am hoping that my opponent starts a fight, I win the fight, I resolve As Foretold, I make a bunch of Rhinos. Maybe draw cards as well. I think there's a lot of ways to play this game, though. Hate this. So now I can't Surveil land, because if I Surveil land, my opponent can take me off of red. That's pretty annoying. Yep. Now that I have 2 copies of Crashing Footfalls, I can consider suspending one. I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I want to open up days on Pyroblast fighting over Force of Will. Like, no one is doing any damage to life totals yet. So we are not in a hurry to get things going. So I need to Force of Will that. I have Pyroblast to back it up. This is where I am hoping that my opponent fights back, I fight back and win. And then I can somewhat safely just As Foretold afterwards. But they don't. Now maybe I suspend one. Now I have Pyroblast available around days. A little awkward that the reanimation effects can now bring this back. If my opponent doesn't have a large creature in hand, I could just Brazen Borrower that out of play on my own turn. But if they do have a reanimation effect, this gets a little weird. I think I'm going to Pyroblast that. My opponent has taken a decent number of like draw-go game actions, so it's possible there's some stuff like Metamorphosis Fanatic that are stranded in hand that could just be discarded into the graveyard for value. Okay, cool. So now I play around days with this As Foretold. I'm going to cast it. If it gets countered, I just suspend the other Crashing Footfalls and try to have inevitability. Okay. So we will cast this for 0. Alright, it's in play. I still don't know that I feel good because like end of turn Entomb into Reanimate Archon of Cruelty or whatever can still just happen here. Push is fine. That's fine. So the reanimation effects that can happen on this start to get a little spooky if I am trying to win the game with 4/4s. I can out-tempo that, maybe. I do not believe that I am currently favored to win this game. There's a fetch land to clear that Brainstorm. There might just be a Metamorphosis Fanatic on top of my opponent's library currently. Yeah. So we will attempt to bounce that and get some tempo hits in. But suspending this Crashing Footfalls and not just having 12 power worth of Rhinos in play immediately, a little rough. Could use some help off the top. We don't get it. I think I am just petty thefting this immediately to buy the time. I'll swing in for 4 and play this creature at end of turn. And, ooh, we do not succeed in our tempo play. I mean, I still take it out of play because it still threatens to draw my opponent's cards, gain a bunch of life. But it's pretty bad. And notably, if I had the Galvanic Discharges in my deck, I don't have the energy where it is actually killing this creature at this point. I believe that surveilling is more important than playing Brazen Borrower. So let's hedge maze. Yeah, I'll put that on top. Or as Foretold ticks up, our rhinos tick down. I will make more rhinos. And the hope here is that we can just overpower this creature. This is going to bring back a Psychic Frog, which is not the best. Now there's 2 giant lifelinking creatures in play versus my deck that is trying to deal fair combat damage. And I fully have to trade 2 rhinos for this in a lot of cases. The Psychic Frog can just change its stats at a moment's notice. So let's get another dude in here. This would be a great time to just rip a fucking Inevitable Betrayal. Just like get an Archon of Cruelty into play. Past Crashing Footfalls. Nope, just more fetch land though. They probably don't attack this turn. We can think about attacking next turn when I can send all of it in. Alright. This is the point of the game where I want to draw, and I'm not going to attack with the flyer into this. Yeah, this is the point of the game where I want to draw the Ponder or Brainstorm to find exactly what I am looking for. And my opponent gets to do the same. No shuffle on Ponder. Bad news for Phil fans, probably. Bowmasters is okay. It makes my Ancestrals much worse. I only have 2 of those, and I've used 1 already, I think. Don't have any Rhinos left, though. Double blocking this is also a little rough. It just puts it back in the graveyard where this can rip it right back out. Alright. The Frog is flying. Alright. Wow, my opponent junked an Entomb. That seems like an incredibly valuable card to me right now. Yeah, but I'll take the flying damage. I can't do anything about it. If my opponent connects 1 or 2 times with Psychic Frog, I think the game's over. Clarifying 1 or 2 more times. I don't think that first card draw just ends the game or anything. Alright, red Surveil land. Nope, already gone. Could not have fetched. I have to pay more attention to my lands here. I'm going to regular mana cast this. We have instant sorcery, land. I can take out creature. Shrink this by 1. I am, I think, just cycling this to draw a card. Am I attacking first? Just attack for 16. Try to force trades while this is still a 3/4. I think that's the graveyard is rough. All right, I'm in. Wait, does this leave me dead on board if I do this? So something like block, take 1, go to 15, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, that would just leave me dead. Okay. So I am going to draw a card with this, which is going to trigger Bowmasters. Okay. I'm going to hold that for brainstorm purposes. And pass turn. Alright, Frog's getting bigger. Frog flies. Oh, something else? Are you getting even bigger? Yeah, okay, opponent just not valuing Entombs right now at all. So I am in theory dead on board to Psychic Frog next turn. My opponent plays no cards. Yikes. Alright. I need a great draw here. Alright. So I am not technically dead to Psychic Frog, but I think the game's over. Yeah, I needed a true cantrip to select for the cards that I actually need. Yeah. I imagine that means that I am just dead here. Something like block, take 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. Opponent might not just shove, though. They could die to some sort of interaction. Well, not die. They could get a little blown out by some interaction. But I think it's probably okay to shove. So I could block and trade here. I could double block on one of these. Take 4, 9, maybe 10. That doesn't work. This is take 4 or 5 damage, go to 2. Does not feel like I am playing to outs anymore. Like at this point, if I, Inevitable Betrayal for an Archon of Cruelty, my opponent sacrifices 1 thing and then just alpha strikes me, and it's just too much. Boseiju not doing it here. Oh, we get to go to another game. I read removal not removing the Tarmogoyf creatures is pretty rough here. I think that is a weakness of not being in like white or black that just has access to better removal. The Pyroblast can help with the frogs and any sort of like Murktide Regent style things that are occasionally played in these decks. Can hit the Atraxas, but it does not hit the trolls and the goyfs. And even playing something like Dismember isn't really guaranteed to answer those either. They can get big as the games go on, especially if I dump some things like artifacts into the graveyard. So if everything goes right, I can end of my opponent's turn, brainstorm, put rhinos on top, cast rhinos with Force of Will backup. I think this is round 3, and I think this is probably the first time that we are at least going to have a chance at setting up our stuff. And I think I am fine with trying to high roll and do the broken thing. My opponent has their own broken things. So we will go Volk here, Brainstorm, Crashing Footfalls needs to go 2 down. I draw some other random card for turn. Yep. And then we will try Amped Raptor. And I will Force of Will to fight over it. Force pitching Force. Yeah, so I think I pitch my Ponder here and Uro next turn. Let's just try to put 10 power in play. Now, if my opponent just Entomb reanimates, we might not be keeping up with that. But I think I need to try to do something proactive here. The game dragging on last time did not feel favorable to me. Fuck yeah, no end of turn Entomb, no end of turn Troll. So we can shut off Reanimate very quickly, even if some things like Fatal Push start getting involved. And I have enough things in Graveyard to potentially bring back Uro. On opting not to wasteland me. Okay, so you're just gonna like play a Bowmaster here. Okay, it's just Fatal Push. Sure. I'm not sure. I guess it plays around Force of Negation to do it on my turn, but it lets me untap and potentially use this mana, which doesn't matter this time, but can matter. This can be a Hedge Maze. In for 6. Down to 12. I guess this could also not be Hedge Maze. So, like, in thinking about getting wastelanded, it's like, do I value keeping my red source, or do I value, like, casting Uro a higher proportion of the time after a wasteland? So I do get to make that decision now. I'm always fetching. I only have 6 red cards remaining in the deck. Let's do a Hedge Maze. That can go to Graveyard. Yeah, that's fine there. And a new Crashing Footfalls, which I will probably be suspending this turn. I say probably because an Uro could get dazed or something. Opponent's at 6 when that's all said and done. Then I'll play Uro. Nice. Pyroblast. I don't mind that at all. I wish I had it available this turn, but I don't mind that at all. Then we'll send one of these to exile. Next turn I might be able to Uro with Pyroblast backup. Nice. Not Entomb. Wasteland, so my opponent can knock me off red here. Sure. That keeps my opponent alive. Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower off the top. Has Foretold. While I still have 4 mana, I'm going to cast an Uro from Graveyard. I don't get to back this up with anything. So if my opponent can daze this, they can daze this, but they can just wasteland me off of 4 mana next turn anyway, so I don't think there's a lot of choice there in that decision. Okay, so now this is a 3-4, since I took some stuff out of Graveyard. So that means my Rhino could attack. I think it will. Okay, yep, that's fine. So my opponent does not get any cards out of that, which is nice. They could just reanimate it, which would not be the best for me. Hopefully I could keep up with that with something like an Uro happening. I imagine I'm going to get knocked off my Pyroblast here. Ooh, I'm not. We are also starting to get to the point where clocks are running low and will start to be a concern. I have this coming, which is very good for me. Now, my opponent keeps doing this stuff in my turn, which is a little weird. All right, hopefully no daze type card. I think I will just fire in an attack first. Yeah, don't love that. Makes my As Foretold Ancestral plan significantly worse. I'm still going to try to resolve it. I think this is worth doing. I think with like 2 guaranteed rhinos coming, that this is fine. I take some damage from this, but like there's just such a high chance that I get to do something broken afterwards. And it is also potentially giving me the fuel that I need to bring Uro back. Nope to that. Go ahead and attempt to counter Psychic Frog, which resolves. Holding back Bowmasters. Feels weird. I don't think I've shown haste creatures. That feels like missed damage. If I get rhinos next turn, Brazen Borrower. Do that on this token? I can also potentially do it on the Bowmasters just to draw more cards with Brainstorm. I can also just put Uro into play. I think I like eliminating the token. I'm going to play Amped Raptor as kind of my bait card here. I could bounce Bowmasters out of play and cast that Brainstorm. I get super blown out by Daze. I don't think I can take that risk. I think I'm not going to give my opponent another draw, though. I think I'm going to go ahead and just petty theft that token out of play, which potentially should have happened before Amped Raptor for the exact scenario that we just saw happen. Yes. Okay, so I'm glad I did not go all in there, but I think I should have done my cards in the reverse order. All right, so the land is replayed. Opponent ponders. Does not shuffle. I think I'm just going to save 4 life here and be fine with that. And then hope Crashing Footfalls resolves to actually deal with the problems. All right, so cast this. I have some friends. And now, like, do I actually play Uro? I don't think I play Uro. I think I just chill. And then we can Uro later. I don't want to turn this into a 5-power creature. Yeah, I think I really fucked up by not playing Petty Theft prior to the other thing. That's fine. Yeah, I think if I lose this one, it's fully my fault. Metamorphosis Fanatic. That's spooky. That just brings back a friend. Seems good. Okay, that's great for me. I wanted that attack to happen. Because now I can at least play Uro and it's not crazy. Alright, the cantrips aren't the best here. I don't have time to pick through the graveyard, actually, and figure out 100% what I should be taking. I need to just cast this. I have 2 minutes left on clock. Alright, I'll put that into play. I think I feel fine casting a Ponder. I don't think I cast the Brainstorm. I'm going to just pay mana for this. No. That's not the stuff I'm looking for. I'll pass turn here. Opponent can cantrip. Doesn't look like I've used my other Surveil land yet, so I can do that at end of turn. That's happening. Alright, the 4-5 is sending in. I am comfortable blocking that. We can trade. I can keep bringing that back for a little while. And we would like to find something unfair. Tropical Island is not unfair. Okay, there's something unfair to do. So cast that for 0. Play Uro. 4 or 5 cards from my graveyard. Opponent gets a Bowmaster trigger. And then I'll pass turn with Force of Will available. Opponent can Psychic Frog and fly in if they want. I don't really have time to think about math here, so we're just sending things. Send them. Put a land into play. I think I'm going to time out here. Yep. Oh, and there's more interaction. Cast with thingy. I think next time I get priority, I'm going to Pyroblast the Frog, just so I can F6 my opponent's turn. Yeah. And I'm just going to ignore that Brainstorm is a card in my hand. Try to attack my opponent 2 or 3 times with Uro in 15 seconds. Always yield to that. Oh, Uro doesn't actually line up well versus Amped Raptor, because I'm just going to make a token on attack. I think I time out here. Yeah, so I'm going to time out on Uro attacks, unfortunately. I think I win this game on a longer timeline, but I could have played faster at any given point. So that's on me. GG's. Alright, I'm not the biggest fan of this hand. It's not going to go turbo or anything. As long as I can use Ponder and Brainstorm to hit my land drops, I will probably be okay to do turn 3 Crashing Footfalls and have a reasonable game when backed by Force of Will. Trinisphere kind of fucks my whole deck. We're Force of Willing that. Maybe just junking a cantrip here. Main deck Trinisphere is not very common anymore. I also potentially have to worry about Blood Moons. So I think I'm getting a basic island here. Because with basic island, I can always as Foretold into Crashing Footfalls. If I take Amped Raptor and land, even if my opponent Blood Moons, I can just do those next turn. That seems fine. Okay, we've got some game here. Again, though, I cannot overstate how fucking good Trinisphere is against me. 6 mana. Okay. We're on a clock here, folks. Now, 3 damage to non-elemental creatures is not going to be enough to kill the stuff that I am capable of producing. Now, is it better to Amped Raptor or to just bounce this out of play? My opponent does not have red currently. Also, do I want to draw Shardless Agent another turn down the line? Shardless Agent is like fine. I think I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to go ahead and fetch. I will get red. And we're just going to take a tempo play of taking that Planeswalker out of play. Now, sometimes my opponent just draws a mountain and puts it right back into play, and like that's that. This is costing my opponent an exceptional amount of life, though. Like, they are at 7. I am almost certainly racing them. Like, I am taking like 2, then 3, then 4 from these emblems. I guess let's just always yield to those. So, I will, as foretold, get 8 power into play for free. Now, my opponent can -4 and kill one of these. If they do, I can take out the Planeswalker or just attack their face for 4. My opponent's on a little bit of an oddball build. And, oh, okay, so they did some damage to one of these. Is that a divided? Yeah. Okay, so it was a -3 followed by another -3. Got it. My opponent's at 3. I have a lightning bolt. I mean, yeah, I guess we can cast this for free with As Foretold. Face. So, I believe that I only did 3 points of damage to my opponent that game. I believe they did 17 points of damage to themselves. And this is one of the things that I talked about in one of my more recent Moon Stompy videos, is the fact that, like, you can't necessarily be the, like, 8 copies of these plus Ancient Tombs plus 1 ring deck all of the time and expect things to go well. So I've got a Hydroblast. Force of Negation probably helps out with Trinispheres. Pick Your Poison helps out with Trinispheres. Meltdown is probably playable, even if it's just for something like Chrome Mox. I'm going to assume that Inevitable Betrayal isn't great. Probably 50-50 on whether or not my opponent is on Chalice or Vexing Bauble. I'm going to guess Chalice. I think there was a build floating around that had both Chalice and Bauble, and this could be it. Galvanic Discharge hit Planeswalkers. Yes. I'm going to say Sylvan Library is slow. I saw so few cards from my opponent. I don't know what their creature suite is going to look like. I'm going to do something like this. Damn, this hand's good. I can get 2 basics if I need to. I have Force of Negation for an initial card that comes down on turn 1. I have Hydroblast backing it up afterwards. This is really quite strong. I think I'm just going to leave Hydroblast up this turn. Yeah, so my opponent is really going hard on these. Blood Sun. Since I have a fetch land, I do care about that. So I will counter that. I think I'm going to ponder looking for a Crashing Footfalls. I'm very sure that that's what I want. I am going to play Misty Rainforest so that I can either fetch Forest or this is more damage to themselves. A Surveil land as is necessary. So after I fetch this time, I don't care about the Blood Sun that much. I think I can try to save the Force of Negation for something scarier. So let's try to find 8 power here. I will accept a draw 3. Now, the sort of annoying thing that can happen is my opponent just getting to Chandra Awakened Inferno, which cannot be countered. So we will draw 3. That's not what I'm looking for, believe it or not. All right, yeah, so that is the acceleration directly to Chandra Awakened Inferno, presumably. Yep, which cannot be countered. So we're on the clock, and we're going to take, 1, then 2, then 3. Always yield to this. Shardless Agent. So this enters untapped now. So 1, 2, 3, cast Shardless Agent, Cascade into Ponder, cast Ponder for free. Another Shardless Agent isn't terrible, but I'd really like to get something that I can play this turn. I'm going to shuffle. Tropical Island, not what I am looking for. Okay, that was slightly underwhelming. Oh, and just in case you're not familiar with Lotus Field, this is a land that normally has you sacrifice 2 lands to play it, so you play Blood Sun over Blood Moon to cheat that cost. I'm absolutely not giving my opponent another Planeswalker here. That's fine. Like, I can deal with that via a Brazen Borrower or whatever. Like, it's certainly annoying, and I guess we'll just always yield to these. But hopefully not the end of the world. We're going to try to brainstorm for mana here, I think. Okay, yeah, so there's a Crashing Footfalls that I can just cast. We'll put back 1 and 2. Cast this for free. Cast a Ponder for mana. Ooh, I will take another Crashing Footfalls. Yaw, yaw, yaw. No shuffle. I've already done my 1 for free this turn. I can't do that. I'm going to Ponder with the intention of shuffling. Yeah. Yeah? Yeah. So then at my opponent's end step, I'll take Ensnaring Bridge out of play, attack for 10, and then I'll do the same thing the following turn. All right, so now these don't cost life anymore. All right, they're opting to just take out a token, which is reasonable. All right, so we can cast Petty Theft on the Ensnaring Bridge, take that out of play for free. I'll take 2. So I can attack and kill the Planeswalker, and the next turn attack for 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, so we'll attempt to kill the Planeswalker. Things can go wrong here. They don't this time, which is cool. So yeah, cast for free. Pass turn. Another land drop. There's a Simian Spirit Guide, followed by the Ensnaring Bridge that we know about. So if this blocks 2, I have 4, 8, 12, 15, and some change. So let's get a Brazen Borrower for free. Let's Petty Theft Ensnaring Bridge. Then I get to play another Brazen Borrower as well. And we take down that one. GG's. Okay. We have an okay hand. I can turn 1 Brainstorm and hope to set up Amped Raptor for turn 2. We are potentially playing against Nadu combo. There's absolutely a car alarm going off in the background. I don't think that is being picked up, but apologies if it is. All right, yeah. So here's more stuff representing Nadu. My Force of Will can't actually stop a Nadu from coming down, which is a bit of a problem. Hopefully we can do something kind of busted with Amped Raptor. It's awkward to use a Brainstorm this way if I miss. I kind of did. I guess we'll just use it to spike Sylvan Library. That's not super exciting. But I accept it. Sylvan Library is a way to manipulate in a meaningful way to make the as foretold good. So let's get our library and pass. We're hoping for something like a Green Sun that I can actually counter, rather than the Nadu just coming down directly that I can't. Oh, what does that mean? Mean something like Endurance is going to come down during combat? Let's take a look at some cards. There's Ancestral, which I would love to do this turn. I'm going to put the land back. Pay 4 life to keep another one. So I'm going to drop a land, attempt to attack for 2. If Endurance happens, I'm not doing as foretold this turn. I'm just doing First Strike and then Lightning Bolt damage. Nope. Opponent's at 18. Let's go get a Trop. Drop the as foretold. If I cast Ancestral, I will have 5 cards in hand then. I still think I'm fine casting it though. Like, it is just setting myself up for next turn better. Yeah, and now I have double Force of Will, which is hopefully good. And we can just discard the Uro for a little value. Oh, this is actually quite good. Yeah. So now I get an untapped Taiga and Lightning Bolt Delighted Halfling so that my multiple copies of Force of Will are now online. That was very positive for me. I am quite happy with that. And now I'm not discarding anything either. Like, we sort of lucked out there. Springheart Nantucko Well, that card's not crazy good or anything, but I have multiple Force of Wills, and those blockers are kind of real right now. I think I'm down. Just countering that. Yeah. Now hopefully we just out mid-range our opponent. Ooh, yes. I have 5 mana. I don't think I need to pay any here, so we'll just put Crashing Footfalls on top. We're gonna Amped Raptor into that, and then probably play Uro. So there's my 2. Do I want a Shardless instead for any reason? So I go 1, 2, then I have 1, 2, 3 mana available. Nah. So yeah, cast that for free. We actually did successfully set it up. Okay, that's enough for a concession. Cool. It was probably correct for my opponent to both Seiju my as Foretold, but it's very strange how well that worked out for me. Okay, we can Pyroblast some Nadus. I guess we could pick your poison some Nadus. Not super exciting. Don't think Inevitable Betrayal is strong enough. I'm not sure what to get rid of here. Not any of my spot removal. I don't know that it's Force of Will, despite the fact that Delighted Halfling is in my opponent's deck. And my mid-range stuff is very valuable, because like I'm going to 1-for-1 a couple of times, and then I want to like Ancestral or Uro or Shardless or whatever for value. I guess Brazen Borrower's not exactly insane here. That is not great versus a lot of their things, like Brazen Borrowing a Nadu out of play is probably suboptimal. I could do something like that, or maybe cut the Sylvan. Maybe cut the Sylvan. Or 1 Uro. Uro's pretty slow. Let's keep the Sylvan to try to set up Rhinos. I would like Rhinos in the first couple of turns. This has no mana. That is not going to do it. Opponent takes a fast mulligan as well. If I spike exactly a red land, this hand is quite good. This doesn't play Magic a huge portion of the time, though. Like, if I spike the red land, it's probably very hard to lose with this hand. Just remove an initial mana dork, and then just value backed by Force of Will. I think I'll go to 5, though. This is fine to good. I'll go 1, 2, 3, probably 4, 5. I can't brainstorm on 1 to set this up. Taiga not producing blue kind of hurts here. Could just spend this on 1 if my opponent doesn't play a mana dork. Okay. I'm going to keep this knowing that I have a little bit of flexibility. I think we are in always bolt the Delighted Halfling mode. Oh, Shardless Agent came back. Yeah, Nadu coming down very, very early is just scary. Alright, so there's a Dryad Arbor. Would love to draw an untapped land. Not the end of the world if I don't. But I did. Nice. Let's go blue-green here. In respect of the 1 Uro. And hopefully we high roll. That's a high roll. Target me. That's not bad. My mana might end up being a little bit awkward. Galvanic Discharge does currently kill Nadu, though, so I've got that going for me. Delighted Halfling. Okay. So taking out Mana Dork's currently quite strong, especially if I can make some other play as well. So let's Amped Raptor, see if we hit some removal first. Force of Will. So no. We'll get some untapped red here off of Volk. And Galvanic Discharge the Delighted Halfling. Force of Will pitching a Nadu. Understood. That's definitely scary. That's an indicator that my opponent probably just has another Nadu in hand. Now, notably, I don't pay the energy immediately on Galvanic Discharge, so I do just have 4 energy chilling. So if a Nadu comes down, I can potentially kill it with a Galvanic Discharge. No immediate combo piece, which is nice. Ooh, yeah. Combat. Send them. Alright, opponent not willing to block. Going to 12. I could try to Surveil immediately and set this up. I might want to suspend or lightning bolt or something. So let's just roll the dice, see what happens here. Pyroblast is hot. Let's cast that, destroy target permanent. If it's blue, target Nadu. My opponent can draw 1 card off of that. A Force of Negation. So now let's just go untapped red again and bolt a Delighted Halfling. So that's Vault. Just kind of try to keep my opponent off balance as much as possible.
We have them on a theoretical turn 2 clock. Blockers can certainly get involved here. Yes. Okay, no land drop to follow that up. That's great for me. Force of Will is almost good. My opponent could double block on Shardless here. I don't know that that makes sense. They agree. Going to 6. We'll Surveil. Don't need Misty. I will suspend this. I do not expect that it is relevant to this game, because I think either I kill my opponent or they combo kill me before these go off. But, I could be wrong. The board could stall out. Yeah, that's awkward for me. Teferi's very, very good against my deck. It stops the Cascade stuff. It stops my counter spells. I can attack and kill it, and then hold up Force of Will, which is probably what I'm doing with my turn. Okay, so now I can attack and kill it, and then just play a new Amped Raptor while holding up Force of Will. That's probably better. Yeah, Teferi is another thing, along with Vexing Bauble, that just make playing this deck quite scary. They're just things that people are just main deck playing that have a absolutely tremendous effect on what my deck is capable of doing. So we'll Raptor again. Binding Ponder, which we'll cast. So I could slam as Foretold, cast Ancestral, but then not have Force of Will available. I don't know that I love that. I can draw Ancestral immediately, Force of Will, pitch Ancestral if I need to, and then as Foretold, Crashing Footfalls next turn. I think that's good enough. I don't need to play as Foretold and let my opponent know that that's coming. I would end up with one more counter on as Foretold, but then give them the opportunity to like Boseiju it or whatever. Yeah, no, I'll just hold it. We're probably getting pretty aggressive with this Force of Will. I would just like to end this game in 2 turns. This is by no means a game-winning card, but this really helps my opponent do meaningful, fair things. Let's say no. This may be a mistake. This can open me up to losing to like Nomads in core into Nadu or something like that. But this forces a chump block here. Ooh, sure. Okay, now it doesn't force a chump block there, although my opponent might do it anyway. So my opponent needs the perfects. They need Nadu plus 1 mana enabler plus land. And then they also need the hits to go well from there. So they're probably going to take this and go to 2. Then I will, as Foretold, into 8 power. So my opponent needs 3 perfects, I think. Spending a mana on Brainstorming is a little rough right now. Brainstorm could hit multiple pieces of spot removal, I guess. So like another Tundra, remove Rhino, chump block both via like Spring Hearts or something. Something like that could maybe work. So another insect. There's a Teferi. That's pretty good. That gets rid of a Rhino. But this looks like dead on board. They're just dead to the Rhino Trampler. Yeah. So we end this league with a positive record. All right, Aaron, I've got mixed feelings on this one. Scoreboard was fine. Games went relatively well. Games were a little stressful. We probably 4-1 if I'm not like recording and talking through my lines, because I timed out that one round that I think we had locked up. So like, scoreboard says positive, but I feel like the deck is awkward. I'm not sure that this feels stronger to me than just doing the Spirit Guide shove Shardless Agent Violent Outburst into Rhino's nonsense. That is just more consistent. Like, you can almost always do that on turn 1 or 2 while playing a dedicated deck capable of doing that. But I had decent agency in my games. I had decent interaction. I had decent value. It feels a little clunky. I am definitely unsure of mulligans while playing this deck list, because it feels like you want to be doing something fast, but you have the ponders and brainstorms that are incentivizing you to slow down and set up. And tempo matters a lot here. You know, there's a very, very large difference between putting 8 to 10 power in play on turn 2 versus turn 3 in Legacy, especially given that decks like Reanimator very much care about their life totals, especially in game 1s,
because of Reanimate on large like 7 or 8 drops. So I don't know that I give you the thumbs up, but I don't know that I give you the thumbs down either. It feels like something of this general nature is like certainly FNM approved. You are doing legacy power level things. Is it optimal to be doing this? Maybe not. I think I like the changes that I made to the deck list. I think Brazen Borrower definitely pulled its weight in this league. I like the second Surveil land that I added. I think I like that better than the Mystic Sanctuary that was originally in here. Mana mostly worked out well. I wanted a basic mountain one time in this league. I maybe don't put that in there though, because I do care so much about my other colors on turn 1 that like basic mountain might be bad. Not sure about that in particular. Basic mountain also is something that does not contribute to casting Uro, which really matters. Maybe the unlicensed hearse in the sideboard becomes one more Soul Guide Lantern or one Surgical or something like that, just so the interaction versus Black-Red Reanimator goes down one tick. But generally speaking, I feel like I had good tools at my disposal. We're gonna give this one the shaky thumbs up, where there is definitely some potential here, and maybe there's still some room to improve this beyond what we have here. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Should you need some cards, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order. All right, see ya.